Welcome to part two of the Fishbowl with Michael Rubin. Having played in the NFL, I was really curious to ask him what it's like to be an NBA owner, but also the power dynamic in the NBA, how it's different than some of his buddies who own teams in the NFL. It seems like more of a players' league. It seems like he has more personal relationships with his players and the players that take the court every night in Philadelphia. So, interesting conversation on the differences between the 2 leagues. I wanted to ask you about the Sixers because, you say you're not a face, but since you've seen 10 and 72 to now making a deep playoff run, being a player or two away, that transition, the grind of it, is it different than regular business? Is it more sitting back and having fun? What's the differentiation for you?
So first of all, I don't think it's sitting back and having fun.
Yeah.
I think it is, the thing I love about the Sixers is we have a great ownership group. It's led by Josh Harris and David Blitzer. These are really smart guys. And I think when the team was acquired in 2011, I think Josh and David and myself and the other partners, we had a very long-term mentality to how to build, to how to build this. And I think we weren't interested in being stuck in the middle. And so I think Josh and David had good vision, said, hey, we want to figure out how to build a championship contender. And so we embarked on that strategy pretty quickly. I think today, until you win championships, you haven't accomplished shit. Mm-hmm. So anyone who tells you differently, you can look and say, hey, we were close, but you got to win championships. That's what the city expects from us. That's what we expect of ourselves. And I think that's what any sports owner should expect of themselves. I don't ever think of this as a fun business. I'll tell you, as we got through the playoffs, my stress level goes up, and just because you want great results.
It's a good stress.
It's a great stress.
It's the same reason guys do, run into each other for a living for so long, or guys like myself stretch their careers out too long because they're addicted to that grind.
Yeah.
And I know it's a grind, but what's your day-to-day grind as an owner?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm involved. My life is interesting because my primary, kind of where I spend my time and put the majority of my time is in Fanatics.
Right.
And that's a business that, I'm the majority owner of.
Yeah.
It's the largest licensed sports retailer in the world. We've got tremendous growth ahead of it. I also own two other consumer companies, Rue La La and Gilt, which are two kind of, it's near, close to $1 billion e-commerce, fashion, off-price
Gilt's
retailer.
Fashion, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
They make big sizes?
We do. We need you buying everything from there
Okay.
going forward. We need a firm commitment. We got you in.
I'm committed.
And for Champ.
Yeah,
We're gonna get Champ. We're gonna get Champ. Yeah,
we're gonna get Champ license
nice outfit.
apparel.
Definitely.
The whole 9 yards.
And then we own another company called ShopRunner. So I spent a lot of time on my three businesses, and then I've spent tremendous time in the last year and a half on the Reform Alliance, and then I also do spend some time on the Sixers as well.
Right.
But again, I'm the third largest owner. Josh and David Blitzer are the number one, two largest owners, but we have a great partnership, and I think the group works well together. And I think similar to Fanatics, where I feel like we're just getting going, I think the Sixers are well positioned for the long term.
Oh, I would agree. I mean, and for people out there that don't know Philly sports, I fell in love with it so quickly. It's just an amazing place. I mean, what's the difference between building something in Philly from a basketball standpoint and some other different market?
Yeah, Philly's a great sports market. I don't know that people outside of Philadelphia really understand this, but if you really think of this, and we're in a world of free agency that's taking a lot of the headlines. You think about people really look at Los Angeles and New York as two really big free agency destinations. But I look at Philadelphia as kind of a suburb of New York, much lower taxes, 30-minute, plane ride away, hour and 10-minute train ride from New York City.
I mean, you have one guy who lived in Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's right, and JJ, great guy, and was a really important part of our team. So I believe that Philly is a great sports market. I think it's got incredible heritage. I think we have the best fans in the world. And you see, even in my Fanatics business, when you won the Super Bowl, it was our biggest Super Bowl ever, was the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. By the way, shattered records. That's how much love there is in the city of Philadelphia. So it's a great sports market.
For sure, man. I mean, and as you're navigating your first decade of being a part of an ownership group, you're learning not only the city differently than you did probably as a fan growing up. You're seeing it from a different side of it, but you're also learning your role in that ownership group. I've heard you talk before about being more personal than basketball X's and O's. Where do you stop on the X's and O's, and where does your strength apply to that group?
Yeah, for me, the way I've always looked at things is don't get involved if you can't really add value. And I actually don't have the basketball expertise that, first and foremost, our GM Elton Brand has, the organization that the Sixers has. I think Josh and David actually came to this with more expertise than I had. But what I've done is I've grown up in the sports business my entire life. So
Right.
for me, the sports business is not new to me. We've got a big collectibles business. We've been working with hundreds of players for, decades. So to me, my big thing is relationships. I believe relationships are everything. And the same difference when you called me and said, hey, Michael, I'm starting this and will you come do this to me? I'm like, you're my guy, I'm coming to do this, because that, to me, life is about relationships. I think if you build great relationships in life, those pay great dividends, and that's something I'm always very focused on doing.
Who are owners who have given you that relationship? I mean, obviously, besides Robert Kraft, I
Yeah.
mean, you guys are tight.
Yeah.
That's been well documented.
Yeah.
Are there guys who don't get enough credit that have shaped you or given
Well,
something to
look, I would start with Robert and Jonathan Kraft. The family's been incredible to me. I've learned if you watch the Patriots, I know this is unpopular when I say this because I'm from Philadelphia, but you have to respect what they've built. They've won six. They've won 6 Super Bowls. They've owned I think they've been to 10 and won 6.
And they've done it a decade apart,
Right.
so the continuity is crazy.
No one's built a more successful sports franchise. So to me, I'm like a student.
Yeah.
Like I want to look and watch. Like I want to get ideas all the time from what are they doing. You actually see it in their ownership. They sweat every little detail about their business, and it pays big dividends for them. So I generally think you can look at an ownership group. You can figure out, is that going to be a successful team or not over a longer period of time. You can always get lucky and that happens, but over a long period of time, I think the right ownership group will do the right things, and the wrong ownership group will screw it up and not get the right results. Look, Jeffrey Lurie in Philadelphia is a really good friend of mine. Jeffrey's been an incredible ally to me. He's been a great friend personally. I've had a lot of friends in the sports business that have been great to me, that have taught me things that I've learned from. One of the reasons, and I really don't talk about this ever, but when I had the opportunity coming into the Philadelphia Sixers ownership group, one of my first reasons for wanting to do it, besides being from Philadelphia and besides loving basketball and besides Fanatics where there was some strategic benefit, it was like that was my college education for how do you own a sports team.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much over the past 7 or 8 years about things to do right and things to do wrong, and that's the way I grow and I learn. So I'm studying everybody. Like I look at every team everywhere in the world to figure out what are they doing well that I should copy, and what are they doing wrong that I should try to not duplicate.
You've done so much right. Have you done something wrong that you were like, man, I fucked that up?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. I mean, we should do this for like maybe.
This is
we
good
should
for
set
your-
it 1 year.
This is good for your soul.
Yeah. So you asked me an Aaron, I'll give you a list of fuck ups.
Somebody like Robert, who's obviously done a lot and done a lot more good than bad. Success. They've got this Patriot way.
Yeah.
Which you spoke to with continuity.
Yeah.
Is it possible in basketball to build a brand in a way now? I mean, like, there's so few organizations in sports
I think the
that pull it off.
Yeah. I think the Patriot way really does matter. The closest you'd have in basketball today is obviously the Warriors.
Yep. So the Patriot way is, it's definitely a real thing, but it certainly helps to have continuity over 20 years. And a big part of that is Robert Kraft. His involvement day to day, in my experience in 1 year there, was very heavy. I mean, he was in the building all the time. I know that him and Bill make some major decisions together. But having an owner and a coach that work together for 20 years and having the GOAT under center, those are 3 major boxes that New England has been able to check and not have to worry about a lack of stability. So that provides them cover to implement whatever cultural norms they want to implement in that building in Foxborough. And they've done it for a long time. But one big misconception is that while there are things that are non-negotiable in New England, from a schematic standpoint, the identity of the team, it changes every year. They've gone from a spread team with multiple prolific wide receivers to a team that pounds the ball on deep runs in the playoffs like last year. They've been an offensive team, they've been a defensive team. So from a football standpoint, I think the Patriot way is as much about morphing into whatever you need to be as it is about adhering to something rigid and stringent. They certainly work hard, they're tough, they're physical, they're built for power most of the time, but the Patriot way is just about having Tom, having Bill, and having Robert Kraft to set a tone of stability and continuity.
But the thing about basketball is it's not 53 players
Yeah.
on a squad, much smaller team, and so I think your relationship with your players is so important because at the end of the day, I mean, that's your asset. That's who's going to go out and win the games day in and day out. But I do think culture is everything. Like, there are good cultures and bad cultures in every sports organization in the world. And certainly, I try to look at the good sports cultures and learn and grow from sports cultures.
Thanks for watching part 2. In part 3, we get into Meek Mill and Michael Rubin's very famous friendship and what that means for criminal justice reform.